So Germany has rightfully and officially declared the Elon Musk-backed Nazi party, AfD, an extremist threat, unlocking full surveillance powers.
Now to politics in Germany, where the far-right political party, the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, has been classified as an extremist organization by the country's domestic intelligence agency. The AfD made major gains in recent parliamentary elections, standing on a platform of opposing immigration. According
That's
to the
extremist, is to not want immigrants? I mean, because, like, I would understand. I mean, like, if, for example, like, they were bombing places or they were violent or, you know, they were talking about, like, you know, let's finish what Hitler started or, like, some crazy shit. Like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, they are an extreme party. And this is, like, basically, again, a terrorist organization. But, like, if this is something bad that they're doing, let's find out why. It's not just that. Okay, well, let's see what the reasons are.
Agency, the AfD wants to exclude people from the democratic process based on their ancestry or ethnicity. And this, it said, is incompatible with the German constitution. The AfD has described the news as a heavy blow to democracy. Well, let's speak now to Clara Pfeffer, a political correspondent for German outlets RTL and NTV. Clara, thank you very much for joining us today to tell us more about this. And take us through what the intelligence agencies are saying, their reasoning for this decision.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello from Berlin. They are basically confirming a suspicion that they've been investigating for years now. So the AfD has been a case of suspicion of being extremist for years, and now they've compiled a paper of 1,100 pages that is saying we have it confirmed. We know that the AfD is not against basically the democratic principles of our German constitution, specifically because it is trying to exclude entire groups, especially people with a migrational background and people who are of Muslim religion. So they have found proof, and that's not everything.
I would say that's pretty extreme. Yeah, that sounds pretty extreme, to be fair.
They've also found more and more proof and put it together into that paper, saying that the AfD is repeatedly using Nazi slogans.
Show the proof? Okay. All right. Very simple. If there is proof, I support it. If there's not proof, then I don't support it. Right? Like, wouldn't every statement that a person makes on something being bad or good be implied that proof is provided? Like, why would I say something if there's no proof for it? Like, we are operating under the presumption that proof exists for this. Now, that assumption could be wrong, but if the assumption is correct, I would say this is pretty extreme. It is. It's extreme.
Usually not allowed in Germany. They have been saying that we should change our way of remembering the Holocaust. So they've just put everything together that we've been seeing. And also many people have known for years. And you must also know that the AfD is already classified as extremist in 3 different states in Germany, former Eastern German states. So this is now...
Didn't the AfD, like, let me see, like, aren't they, like, one of the most popular parties? So AfD is blue, and, I mean, that's a lot of people. And here's another one. It's 152 now. Germany's conservative celebrates an election win, but AfD's historic gains loom. And if you look at this one's 2025, it shows the AfD at plus 10, which is higher. So it's growing almost twice as fast besides FDP. I don't know what that is either. Oh, SD. Yeah, this one's also growing very fast. It is the fastest growing party. It's the second biggest party. Okay, that's a lot. Wow.
Basically confirming that that is the case not only for these...
I think this is like one of the problems of like it's like a democracy paradox, right? Where it's like if enough people get together and they democratically want to get rid of a democratic process, how do you deal with that? Like, and I don't know what the answer to that is at all, right? But like if the people want this, right? It's like, how do you deal with the people wanting something even though the thing that they want would not be possible to want if they got what they wanted? I don't know. You need an extreme majority? Yeah, I guess we'll find out in 4 years. Germany has it in a constitution? Well, a constitution these are all just bullshit, right? I mean, this is all, they change these rules, they ignore them whenever they want to. Nobody gives a shit about this. It's the same as the US. People care about it. No, I'm being honest. It is a sheet of paper. It is a sheet of paper, and people will not make decisions that will overrule their material conditions because of a sheet of paper. We've done it many times here in the US.
States, but for the entire German country.
Interesting comments from Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He's not Chancellor for very much longer, of course, but he's saying the Domestic Intelligence Agency provides very detailed justification, but ban proceedings must not be rushed. What sort of discussion is there about a potential ban?
I think that there is a 100% chance that if they get classified as an extreme right party, that it will only serve to embolden more people to support them. And I think that, like, in general, this is kind of what happened with Donald Trump. Like, I think that the amount of, like, prosecution and everything that Donald Trump went through, justified or unjustified, definitely served to galvanize his viewer base and his fan base. And yeah, fan base, it's a fucking president, right? But, like, let's be honest here. It galvanized his fan base and voter base to be even that much more fervently in his support.
Yeah, that's a highly political discussion that has been going on for years, and especially in the last couple of months, it has also been discussed a lot. The last government, or the last Bundestag that was just re-elected, said that they tried to do it. They tried to get a majority. They failed. There were not enough members of parliament who were in favor of starting a ban. That's also a very long process.
Oops, sorry.
And that's also a very long process. And the discussion is basically, how do we get that party smaller? That's what the other political parties want to reach. And
is the irony not lost that the goal is to make this party smaller and it is in the service of democracy? Like, because it's kind of funny to me to see that. She said it. Yeah, if that's their goal, like, what are we doing here?
they are worried that if you try it with an actual ban and that whole process, that will take years. And throughout those years, the AfD will have the opportunity to claim that that's being a cause, that they are actually the victims, that it's not transparent, that they're being surveyed by the state. So that will...
Well, they are, though, right? They are. Like, that's... I mean, it's not like they're making this up. I mean, you could say that they deserve to be surveyed. You could say that, yeah, they are an extremist group, but, like, this is happening. It is happening.
Also be an opportunity for the AfD to maybe grow even further and mobilize.
Yeah, and the AfD, they are talking about legal action in response to this classification, aren't they?
Exactly. They are saying that they want to take legal actions. They've also tried that against that case of suspicion that has been going on for years. Last year, a court in Münster confirmed that they are a case of suspicion. There is still some more legal action going on, and they will also now try to have legal actions against that classification, that confirmation of this classification, because I think that's important to understand that we've already been seeing that for years, and now it's basically a confirmation of what the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz, which is the institution that tries to make sure that our constitution is protected in Germany, has been seeing and surveying for years. So they will take legal actions. I don't know how much.
So they're going to so they're basically going to put this, they're going to put these guys under surveillance? Oh my God.
Possibility of success there is, but obviously that delays things.
Decision.
And the discussion.
I think that this decision will be seen, like, historically as the same decision as, like, them trying to prosecute Trump on, like, 34 felonies. I do think so. I think that the moment that you start trying to... Because, like, it's one thing if you have a party like this and if you can't beat people in the free marketplace of ideas and you have to resort to... And again, keep in mind, I disagree with a lot of what the AfD is saying. I don't like the idea that people who migrate over and they're a citizen of Germany, but they came from another country, I don't agree that they shouldn't be able to vote, right? I mean, if they're a citizen, they should be able to vote, or at least their kids should be able to vote. I mean, I believe in that. Not true? Well, I'm just saying, like, if it's not even true, okay, all right. Here's my point. Let me just take a step back and explain my point of view. Ultimately, I think people have the right to be governed by who they choose. Whether this is a person who is a racist, homophobic, anti-democratic, who is an asshole, who is, like a socialist, a communist. I think people have the right to elect who their leaders are. Fundamentally. And if you don't have who's anti-demographic, transphobic, well, I mean, like, we've elected a lot of people here in the U.S. that are transphobic, right? Taxation means representation, sure. So, at the end of the day, if you have a lot of people supporting this party, and you actively subvert their abilities to support the party, then you are basically taking away their right to vote. You're taking away their right to be represented in the government, and I don't think that usually goes very well.
Will be out there for months and months to go.
Okay, Clara, thank you very much. Clara.
Like, and also, like, by the way, I'm not really a huge supporter in a lot of cases of democracy in some cases either. Like, a lot of people are stupid. They're dumb. But at the same time, that's still their right to have it happen. And I'll look at one more and see if there's any more information about this. But decision could pave the way for the AfD. So they're going to ban the party. Holy shit. Or they could. To be fair, they could do that.
We begin here in Germany, where the Domestic Intelligence Agency has designated the far-right AfD party an extremist organization and a threat to democracy. The Alternative for Germany finished...
It is funny for me to hear the threat to democracy thing, because, like, as an American, this is like a fucking sirens call that we've been hearing for the last 10 years with, like, Donald Trump. And it's like, oh, okay, I've heard this one before.
Second in February's national election, with almost 21% of the vote, making it the main opposition in the incoming parliament. The official classification doesn't mean the AfD is banned, but its activities will now be subject to even closer surveillance.
But it could make them get banned,
says
right?
It will challenge the decision.
Right-wing extremist with a disregard for human dignity. That's how the far-right AfD, Germany's second largest political force, is now officially classified in an 1,100-page report.
The new assessment by the Domestic Intelligence Agency shows that we are a robust democracy and have legal instruments to protect our democracy against extremist threats. This includes observation and evaluation by the Domestic Intelligence Agency, as is the case here.
The AfD's leadership called the decision, quote, complete nonsense, claiming the party has been essentially criminalised just before the change of government.
Well, I mean, they kind of have, right? I mean, like, if they're, like, let's be real, right? I mean, if the government is giving a certain ability to, like, survey and keep up with what you're doing that other countries or other parties don't have the option to do, then that's bad. The AfD, so this is... Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to survey the opposition. That's not democracy, it's tyranny in disguise. What's truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which took second in a recent election, but rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policy that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. Yeah, this is democracy. The decision is a result of a thorough and independent investigation to protect our Constitution and the rule of law. It's independent. The courts will have the final say. We've learned from our history that right-wing extremism needs to be stopped. And this is from Germany. So wait a minute. So the idea of democracy is to not let people vote for certain things? Well, I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, and, like, I can respect the idea. Like, you think democracy is a bad idea because a lot of people are dumb and they shouldn't vote. Totally reasonable, easy to say. I agree. Yep, sure. But don't go and say that. Don't say that you care about democracy and not do that. Yeah, we're a republic, exactly. And yeah, you can't use democracy to kill democracy? I don't know. That's the question.
A court challenge. The AfD came second in February's general election.
Wow.
And recent polls suggest it has even gained support since then.
I think that it will continue to grow in support the more time. Basically, this is the reason why the AfD is growing in support. The AfD is growing in support. And also, by the way, if you're German and you disagree with me on this, then I'm wrong and you're right, okay? Like, this is my opinion as an American who's just looking in at this as a third party, and I could be totally uneducated and uninformed about this, and I could be wrong. But this is what I'm seeing as a American who's looking in on the situation, okay? I see that Germany has a tremendous amount of speech laws. I think that Germany has the original sin of Hitler and Nazism. And because of that, the entire culture is built around making sure that that doesn't happen again. And in the process of that, they have created a situation where even reasonable discourse about like kind of limiting or like preventing migration is viewed through the same lens as Nazism is. And I think that that's what's really radicalized people. It's that they see people coming into Germany at like a huge amount, like a lot of migrants coming into Germany at a very, very high rate. They're not assimilating with the culture. They are being violent, you know, like the whole trucks of peace thing, etc. And I do think that some degree of migration and immigration would be fine and it would be okay. And we have that here in the US. And the fact is that a lot of people do get along. But the problem is that I think there's a huge, really big difference between like migration and mass migration. Because I think migration allows people to come to another country and assimilate into the culture of that country. And then if you have mass migration, no, you just have basically a large group of people that's being displaced into a different place, and they just kind of maintain their own culture. I think that's kind of what happens. And so it has to be done over time in order for them to be assimilated properly into the culture. That's what I think is the case, right? I could be wrong, but that's just what logically makes sense to me. So, yeah, it's not that they're not allowed to vote for AFD. It's the AFD hasn't followed the Constitution with their political policies, and their policies in the future will lead to a less democratic society. Yeah, I mean, I understand that's what they're saying, but what I'm saying is that do people have the right to, like, here's an interesting philosophical question, right? Do people have the right to democratically vote to have less democracy? Do they or not? Not in Germany, right? Yeah, but I don't care what the who cares what the... Oh, wow. Some old fuck that's probably dead wrote this down a long time ago. Let's base everything off of that. No. I don't care what any rule says. I don't care what any of this says at all. I only care about what I think is good and bad. That's it. Whether it's our constitution, somebody else's constitution, any law, times change. And so, is it good or not? Should you be able to or not? That's the question. Exactly. Constitution can be altered. Yeah, you can change. Yeah, the Constitution can be altered. Same as ours. Like, that's why we have the amendment against slavery, for example. And women to vote. That's another one.
Showing it as the strongest party in Germany. Mm-hmm. The Domestic Intelligence Agency said the party's prevailing understanding of people based on ethnicity and descent is incompatible with the free democratic basic order.
Mm-hmm. So let me see how much support they actually have. And this is which parties currently have the most support in Germany ranked. Based on most recent available data, here's the following of a ranked list. So AFD is number 2 with 20%. Okay. Graph of AFD support in Germany over the years. All right, let's look at this. That's old. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to take a look at it. I don't have direct access to making a graph. So it has been going... Wow. AFD support in Germany, 2013 to 2015. Oh, wow. That's a whole lot. God damn. 26%. Yeah, so it's showing 26% support. The snap federal election saw AFD use, achieve 20%, doubling its 2021 result. So this was the last federal election, and this is this federal election. What about the one in 2017? It was 12%. So it's very clear that this is going up massively. Wow. 26% of how many parties? I think there's like 7 or something, like somewhere around 7. And so April 2025 polls showed it peaked at 26%, briefly overtaking CDU, CSU in some surveys. Wow.
The report said it saw evidence of ongoing agitation by the party against refugees and migrants, citing statements by far-right...
Well, yeah, there's agitation. They want to get rid of them. I mean, I could say that. I like, if somebody wanted to get rid of me, I would say they're agitating me. Yeah. Yeah.
AFD politicians in internal communications,
Can easily say
speeches,
that.
and social media. But what does this mean for the AFD going forward?
We should always separate these legal instruments from necessary political debate. As you know, and as I've said time and again, a party ban procedure has very high constitutional hurdles for good reasons. That should not be ruled out, but it should continue to...
Oh, so they're probably going to party... They're going to try and ban the party. Well, I mean, not really they're going to, but like they're saying they're not ruling it out.
be handled very carefully. In any case, it's not something that is automatic.
Due to Germany's history, banning parties is extremely rare, and any attempt to do so would be a highly controversial move. But this new classification will no doubt intensify the debate over whether such a ban could be justified.
If they ban the party, oh boy. Oh boy. Bad move. I think if they ban the party, that's how you get Nazis again. Like, unironically. I think the moment, like, remember what I said before, is I think that they're going to elect the new Adolf? I've been saying this for a while. Here it is.
Let's take a closer look at this with Professor Dr. Antje von Ungern-Sternberg, who is a professor.
Somebody said this, and this is basically the way that a lot of people view it. I am a big fan of the democratic process. No political recourse equals violence. Martin Luther King said this. A lot of other people have said this too. Violence is the language of the unheard. And if people can't vote and they can't be represented, that's the reason why the Boston Tea Party happened. They want to ban 26% of Germans? Yeah, think about that. That's insane. That's a huge amount of people. 26%?
Professor of Constitutional Law at Trier University. Welcome to DW, Professor. You've called in the past for the AFD to be banned because you say it violates the principles of Germany's basic law, its constitution. Does that mean you agree with today's decision?
Oh, yes, of course. I think the proceedings preparing for party ban should be initiated.
This is just me, and I think it's important to look at what the rules are, but I think that oftentimes the rules are... The laws do not dictate morality and ethics. And so if there's a law that's being used in a way that's unethical or immoral, then that law is not valid, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that there's a reason that you need to listen to that. Like, I don't just have a blanket support on rules. I think it's silly to do that. So, like Trump? Yeah, pretty much.
And I think today's report confirms our assessment that there are strong indications that the party is unconstitutional. And perhaps let me explain to an international audience that the German understanding of democracy does not ban freedom of speech, but we have a concept of...
Yeah, you do. You're going to say that you don't ban freedom of speech, but now you're going to talk about the types of speech that are banned?
Militant democracy. Due to our his speech, but we have a concept of militant democracy. Due to our history, we want to defend our democracy against its opponents and its enemies. And therefore, in the last resort, we also have the instrument of a party ban. But we also have this very strong instrument of the Office for the Protection of the Constitution that investigates what extremist parties do.
Right. That's very clear. Thank you for that. Is it the policies? Is it the way they talk about the policies? Is it what they want to do? What is it about the AFD, do you think, that makes it incompatible with German law?
Yeah, as you already mentioned, it's really, really difficult to ban a party, and justly so, because it's
bad.
a democracy's right
sure.
to found new parties and also to issue controversial topics and opinions. So what's at stake is the core of our constitution. So it's human dignity, the core of human rights, the basics of a democracy.
I don't think that this is going to work with the... I don't think that this messaging is effective. Because the problem, and this is the reason why I think the AFD has grown so much in popularity, is because if you look at human dignity and people's basic human rights, I think that that's also viewed through the lens of, for example, like, why is it that somebody is, like, having to worry about getting, like, raped, right? Why is it that you have these people who are migrants coming in and committing violence or being, murderers or something like that? So it's like, don't people have a right to live in a culture, live in a society where that doesn't happen? And so if you are actively doing something that systematically makes people more unsafe, then how can you make an argument to, like a human having a right to being safe? It doesn't make sense. It's too vague. Yeah, I don't think it makes sense at all.
Democracy and also the basics of the rule of law.
And what have they said or done that challenges that?
So what most of these reports focus on is human dignity. That's the stance the party takes with regard to migrants, foreigners. It sort of shows racist or ethno-cultural idea of the German people that is above, that is higher than other German citizens or non-citizens that come from a migratory background, that have another religion than the West.
Let's assume that's true. Let's assume all that's true. I think about this in the concept of, like, Dubai or like Qatar or Saudi Arabia, something like that. Does Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, morally or ethically have the right to decide that it wants Sharia law? I think the answer is yes. I think they have that right to decide that. It's their country. They live there. They're the people that live there. They should decide how they're ruled. They're not a democracy, though. I don't care. I'm talking about what I think should happen. I don't care what the vocabulary is. Why does the vocabulary matter? Something's either right or it's not. That's it. The law is sometimes a byproduct of that, but not always.
And Christianity that are Muslims that have a different race. So denying those members of the population equal standing, equality, is also amounts to denying them human dignity, and that's the problem.
It's a different
but there
one.
are other issues as well.
So we're on the cross.
I think that
if I may continue.
Okay, by all means.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that the party and many of its adherents openly works against democratic institutions and sort of delegitimizes them by not saying they work properly.
We're not going to watch this whole thing, by the way. I'm going to listen to this and then look at a few more things, and then we're going to look at some other stuff too.
Say they lie. The media lie all the time.
I feel like we've pretty much
the established parties don't work in favor of the people. So this populist...
well, they're clearly not working in favor of the people, because a lot of these people aren't really supporting the, the mass migration, but it keeps happening. And I think, honestly, a big reason for that, again, this is my limited understanding. That could be incorrect. I'm not fully educated in this. But my understanding is that it actually comes a lot of it top down from the UN. That's why, for example, Poland has to pay a fine.
Years are also very problematic, but the problem is you have to take them down, you have to prove it, and not all of what the people want is, expressed openly. So it's good that we now have these investigatory measures that can be, done also where they can go into the secret meetings. Yeah.
And find out what's really going on. But here's the thing. This is a
So basically, they've decided that now they can go in and spy on all of their meetings and check at everything that they're... Okay.
Popular political party. Something like 24% of the votes it took at the election. Do you believe that 24% of German voters who voted for the AfD subscribed to these notions of working against democratic institutions and working against people's dignity?
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, some of them probably simply feel left behind. It's, problems that many Western societies have, the contrast between city and countryside, west and east in Germany, well-off, well-educated population and the worse of women and men. So that's rather general problems. People feel left behind and they just vote for the party who's most opposed to anything that goes on in the established system. But others are openly...
I think there's definitely a case of that. I think part of what she's saying is true. Is that a lot of guys, and it's actually not guys, a lot of people feel like the government has effectively ignored them in favor of like foreigners for whatever reason. And in the process of that, they have, decided that the government doesn't care about them and they want to change the government. Basically, like, if you systematically disenfranchise people and you make them feel like their voice doesn't matter and they can't vote on things that are beneficial for them and their quality of life isn't improving, don't be surprised when they try to burn the system down. Why would people want to be okay with that?
Xenophobic, I think, and because
Let me go back.
the are openly xenophobic, I think, and because
of course.
the border of what you can openly say gradually shifts, they can also be more outspoken about this. And
she's referring to the Overton window and this shifting, and I think this is very true. It's true also in the United States, is that it's dramatically shifted recently, and I think that you see a lot more, like very right-wing rhetoric that's not immediately removed or deplatformed. And I think that's a very big difference. They're terrified of that? Well, yeah, I mean, of course, because that's going against what they want to do, right? Or like what their beliefs are. Of course.
Very problematic. And if we could sort of ban this, it would also be very helpful for the political...
I guess that would make sense. Yeah, it would be very, very helpful if you could ban the people that disagree with you. I think that's true. Absolutely.
Culture, I think.
Yeah. Except that if you ban it, and even by demonizing the AfD in this way, as I say, a very popular political party here in Germany, don't you run the risk of disenfranchising that 24% of voters and further dividing German society?
True.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the division also comes from this rhetoric, I think. And also, as a constitutional lawyer, I have to look at the instruments that the fathers and mothers of our basic law gave us to protect.
What? So, because the book says we have to do it, then we have to do it. Well, fuck the book. What's this argument to the authority of people who are dead? What the fuck is that?
The Constitution. I mean, you can see in other countries what happens if you don't stop those anti-constitutional movements at an early stage. Already 25% is far too much. You should have started earlier trying to ban and to stop the party.
You got to admire. I mean, she just comes out and says it.
I agree. It's also a political problem, and of course, all the political parties have to
she's mask off.
Work together to try to help solve problems, so that this feeling of being left behind and other serious issues are also solved politically. That's certainly true also.
Thank you so much for talking us through that so clearly, Professor.
Well, there it is. They need to. She wants to ban the party, and it's hard to do systematically, but they want to do it, and they should have done it earlier. Okay. Well, there it is. That's pretty simple.
Professor Dr. Antje van Ungern-Sternberg from Trier University. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this decision has already become an international issue, certainly for the Trump administration. The AFD's problems caught the attention of US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Posting on X, he criticized the broader surveillance powers granted to German authorities. That's not democracy, he wrote. It's tyranny in disguise.
Didn't Obama do this too?
Is truly extremist is not the popular AFD, but rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policies that the AFD opposes. Secretary Rubio ended the post by saying Germany should reverse course.
I do think that again, this is an outsider's perspective, so I could be ignorant, and I probably am in some cases. It seems to me like the prime, main deciding factor is immigration. It's mass migration, and people think it's too many migrants. Way too fucking many. That's it? Yeah, that's the main one.
Straight to our political correspondent, Simon Young. Welcome, Simon. What does this security service designation mean for the AFD?
It means they get spied on constantly. And so, anyway, the AfD is the most popular party in Germany and by far the most representative of East Germany. Now that bureaucrats tried to destroy it, the West tore down the Berlin Wall together, and now it's been rebuilt, not by Soviets or Russians, but by the German establishment. Well, there it is. That's pretty disappointing to see. I'm kind of surprised. Why are they importing non-citizens into Western countries? I don't know really what their reasoning is or why they're doing it. I mean, does it really matter why? I mean, who cares why? If people don't want them there. And in my opinion, I think that if you're bringing in a bunch of people, why is it necessary for Germany that they are mass importing migrants from second and third world countries into Germany at a high rate? Is it like, okay, if we don't do this, Germany's going to fall apart? I mean, I don't really think so, right? And so it seems like such a ridiculous thing to say. Yeah, I had no idea that they actually just gave their spy agency powers to just fucking spy on them. Okay. Wow. Jesus. I've always thought that I think that there's a huge problem in Europe in general where I think that being able to talk about ideas, I think they're so afraid of having something like World War II happening again that they are creating rules that will, I think, inevitably lead to the rise of a new party that will cause something like World War II to happen again. Because once enough people feel like their voices aren't being heard and they're being disenfranchised, you have to keep in mind, the Nazi Party was not the most popular party in Germany when it took over, as far as I know. It was actually not super popular at all. And so the idea that you need to have a majority for this to happen, what, 10, 15%, something like that? I don't remember. They're 39%. I don't remember exactly. They only had 32%. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's it's 39. Okay. I might have been thinking about I think the first time Hitler tried to run or something. I could be wrong. So yeah, they were giga popular. Well, I think that a lot of times things like this become very popular because if you don't like them, you're arrested, right? It's the Houthis, for example. You can't. I don't think you can accurately judge support for Vladimir Putin, the CCP, the Nazi parties, the Houthis, the Hamas. You can't accurately judge support for them, North Korea, exactly, because not supporting them can result in death. And so oh wow, people aren't signing up to get killed for thinking that they don't like something. Okay, what a surprise. So yeah, I don't know how you can say this when Trump is actively threatening the sovereignty of allied nations. Meanwhile, Trump doesn't discount conquering Greenland and Panama. Okay. Well, here's what my opinion is on that. I'll just give you a straight, flat-out opinion. I don't fucking want Greenland in the U.S., and I don't fucking want Panama in the U.S., and I don't fucking want Canada in the U.S. I don't want them in there. I don't want to have a war. I don't want to bring them in. I don't want them voting in our elections. I don't want them to have anything to fucking do with us, right? I think we can trade with them. They can do their own thing. We can do our own thing. We can be separate. That's what my opinion is. And I don't want Trump to try to take them over and make them a state. I meme about it. It's funny to talk about because it is. I think it's funny. But my actual personal material support for it is literally zero. Like, that's it. I really talk about my own opinions on these topics because, like, actually, that's probably not true. I do sometimes. But mainly, I just try to understand why people are thinking something and why people believe something, right? And so, yeah, that's how I see it. I'm from Canada, and I wish I was in the USA. I'm sure there's a lot of people in Canada that I think would be great Americans. But overall, I think Canada has its own right to sovereignty, and I don't want to infringe on that. And I don't think that's a good use of our resources, time, or effort. It's just simply not. We have 50,000 other problems in the world. Why are we thinking about Canada? It's ridiculous. So, yeah. Greenland wouldn't be a state. Yeah, do you hear about the new Canadian Prime Minister? Yeah, I saw that guy. And anyway, let's see if there's any more information about this. I don't know if there's any new information at all about this. But it looks like, yeah, in general, like, I don't necessarily support the AFD party. I don't know enough about them to really say that. But what I do support is that I do think this mass migration stuff is really bad. I do. Everything that I see about it, everything that I've read about it, the amount of coverage that I've seen about the mass migration, it has been almost universally negative in a way that I can't see how people would support. But I think the reason why a lot of people support the mass migrations, I'm going to be honest, is because they're afraid not to. I think that a lot of people are afraid to not say, we don't want this to happen, because they don't want to be painted as a racist or a Nazi or anything like that. And that's the reason why these people are afraid of that Overton window shifting, is that the moment that the Overton window shifts and people are able to express those viewpoints, it's going to be exactly what happened with trans people here in the US, where as soon as you were able to say anything negative about trans, their popularity and the support went into the shitter. And the only reason that it had that much support is because people were afraid to criticize it. Yeah, it immediately crumbles. Yeah, or maybe go to jail. Yeah, maybe you can go to jail for the speech. Exactly, yeah. Because over there, you go to jail if you say something like that. It's still being discussed, or we're getting fucked in the ass by the rich price gouging us into oblivion. We're just being discussed. Yeah, I think that's true. So, like, you're saying that, like, rich people flood the country with illegals in order to overcomplicate things and make it to where, like, the people fight amongst each other with the migrants. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you're right. But I also think that two things can be a problem at the same time. Like, I'm against that, and I'm also against those people, too. So, yeah. It's a distraction. Yeah, in some cases. Would you say the tighter restrictions on patriotic movements in Europe causes the nationalism of European countries to be more extreme than American nationalism? Yes, I do think so. And I think that's one of the reasons, is that when you create a place where, and I've seen this happen, like we see this happen with COVID. I think COVID's a really great example of this, is that the resounding narrative about COVID right now is that COVID was bullshit. And the way the government handled COVID was also bullshit. And so what happened now is that because so many people believe that, and I think that it would have never happened that way if the government didn't try to exercise such tight control over the communication about COVID. Because after they started really, really tightening down on what you can and can't talk about with COVID, then people really started getting upset, and that pushed them and alienated them and radicalized them away. And so as soon as you make it to where, like, a certain viewpoint or opinion isn't possible, like, I think also vaccines is a great example of this too. Like, there's always been an anti-vax movement ever since like 2000 and maybe 8 or so, but now it's been like massively multiplied. Or tell us, thanks for 10 subs, man, I appreciate it. And it's been massively multiplied by the fact that you have the COVID vaccine that's being thrown in the same bucket as the polio vaccine. And I think the COVID vaccine did a tremendous amount of damage to people's trust in vaccines as a wholesale product. And now you have people like RFK, which I don't agree with RFK on a lot of things. There are some things I really agree with them on, right? But some things I don't. Vaccines are one of them. I think that vaccines exist on a spectrum, and many of them are extremely safe. And you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because the mRNA COVID vaccine might be unsafe doesn't mean that the measles or the whooping cough or the polio vaccine is unsafe, right? That's just common sense. I think that, and by the way, I think that's what most people think, right? And so anyway, did it destroy their trust too? It did. It massively destroyed their trust. And so because people couldn't speak out against COVID, I think now the overreaction and then people being against all vaccines in general, I think it is a direct, again, it's kind of like what I said about that Shiloh girl, right? And like the Carmelo Anthony, like the fundraisers. If Carmelo Anthony had never done a Give Send Go, then that Shiloh fundraiser would not exist right now. It was a direct and proportional response to the fact that a literal murderer made over $500,000 for people supporting his family. It's a counter. Yeah, exactly. RFK is not against all vaccines. You just watch this Dr. Phil interview. Yeah, it's really weird. I hear that he is and that he isn't. If I'm misrepresenting his positions, I apologize. But that's just generally what my understanding is. He said he isn't. Yeah, well, either way, there are people that are. So I'm just really using RFK as an example of a person who's leading that movement, and people in that movement do believe are against all vaccines. Definitely. Why would anyone trust vaccines now? Well, because the way that the government handled the COVID vaccine should not be used as a benchmark for how all vaccines should be looked at in the future, right? I mean, that's how I see it. But yeah, this is pretty fucking crazy that they actually just banned the party. AFD is right-wing, so we ban it. Also, Germany, we'll spend all our money and weapons to the guys with Nazi tattoos and symbols. Oh, that's obviously fucking the that other place. And wow. And moves on to Democratic officials, drawn J.D. Vance in Munich by citing AFD as an example of Germany respecting free speech. Now they're labeling AFD as extremists and then trying to ban them. I guess Vance was right. Yeah, of course he was. That's just it. They did not ban the party fully. Well, of course they didn't. No, there's a process to doing this, right? So at first, you basically make it to where they are being surveyed a lot. And then after you survey them all the time, then you transition to creating sanctions on them. And then after the sanctions are on them for a while, then you ban them. It takes time. Yeah, it takes time to boil a frog. They're not going to just instantly ban this guy, or ban this party like one day.